My name is Jessica Cullen. I am a triathlete.
My name is Allison Jacob. I do triathlon.
Let's start with feelings leading up to Kona. Tell me some of your thoughts leading up to the race from when you arrived in Kona.
So I loved when we actually arrived in Kona. I think that we got there at the perfect time. So we got there a week before the race to be able to see how our bodies were actually reacting to the heat, the winds, the different conditions, and also another huge thing were the ocean swims. Because we kept joking about it that the ocean did not want us in it. But as we slowly started making peace with it, the swims kept getting better and better. So I think that being there a week early definitely helped to see where our fitness was at for those sorts of conditions. And we did quite a few workouts, like the bike workouts and stuff, like just trying to hit power, get used to the crosswinds. And I think that leading up, all the workouts felt really good and kind of just reinforced that the work that we put in leading up to the race was going to be something special.
And I had a bit of an injury scare leading into the race. So I didn't run for 2 weeks leading into the race. So yes, I felt confident in my training, but I also was nervous going into the day because anything could happen, and I did have this understanding that if it was too painful, I would pull out. So what was interesting and how it changed my mindset was I was just grateful that I could do any portion of it. Like, I think it changed my mindset a little bit. But I was actually shocked at how little it bothered me because Hawaii was just stunning. It was beautiful. It was so many like firsts. Being there as a first time Kona competitor, just seeing it, all the lava rock and like hearing about such like a storied place and then actually being there and soaking it all in. So it was really special. It was really nice to have a house of athletes. I think that we fed off each other's excitement and energy, and it was helpful having Allison there because she had done it before, so would ask a couple questions about all of that. But I think another thing that you saw is that Hawaii changes every single day. So the conditions on one morning would be completely different the next, and that was actually helpful to level set going into the race, just knowing that the race day could be anything. It could be super windy, it could be super hot, and you just needed to bring your A game no matter what. So I think that wrapping my head around that was really important. And then like Allison said, the swims were really, really key in getting that comfort level in the water.
The night before was I feel like the day before we had pretty calm energy. We didn't have to do too much. The boys kind of already had so the 3 women that were in the house were the ones racing. Then there were our 3 partners that were with us. So the boys had a party to go to that evening. So they kind of just let it up to us and let the house be super calming and stuff. So Bronwyn and I just watched lots of Netflix and went to bed super early. I think that obviously there was like pre-race nerves and jitters like there always is, but I don't think we could have been kind of set up any better because we had so much support around us and just kind of letting us do what we needed to do before the race. So, but I felt pretty good, calm, went to bed super early, had a really good sleep, and then woke up the next morning for the race. Yeah. You had a little bit of a different evening.
So my parents came on this trip and I loved it. It was so special to have them there and it meant a lot. And they arrived on the Thursday. So we raced on the Saturday. So I said, listen, we had a really chill day. We've been watching some movies. I'm actually fine, especially knowing that everyone needs their own headspace and it was a shared house. I said, instead of bringing all of you to our house, let's, why don't we go off site? Why don't we have like a dinner and then I can come back and go to bed early by 8 o'clock. So that was the plan. And it just became this whole misadventure where we went to where my parents were staying and they had me select which restaurant to go to. But then we ended up like walking around forever to try and find it and like got totally lost. We ended up in this like wild food court with like half the options were open. I was like, listen, I'm just gonna get like chicken and rice and test it out at this restaurant. And then all of a sudden my dad's like, but wait, I actually think it's over here. So like we drive across to this other place and that one had like a 45-minute wait. I said, I can't wait 45 minutes. At this point it's like 7:30. So we ended up at this small Chinese restaurant, like hole in the wall restaurant. And I was like, I've never eaten here before. This could be, who knows? But I had like chicken and broccoli and rice. And it actually, there were so many moments. Like one thing that ended up being so perfect about the pre-race night is it was just so funny. Like I was laughing so hard. So there was like no nerves. I was just like relaxed, happy, and having fun. I did get to bed by like just after 8 o'clock. So yeah, all the boxes were checked, but it was a bit of a distracting night. But in the end, like, I think that I respond really well to that. Like fun and laughter is a really important part of me feeling good before a race. So I think it got me right where I needed to be in terms of my headspace.
Race morning, we woke up pretty early, so I wanted to give myself about 45 minutes to an hour before we needed to leave, just to be able to have my caffeine pill, have my cinnamon raisin bagel with butter, and just make sure I was ready for everything. So I think we left the house at around 4:30, and then we had quite a bit. Where we were staying was about a 40 to 45 minute drive to the actual transition area. And then we just had the boys drop us off, and then the transition area is kind of interesting in the fact that they just kind of corral you through everything, lots of volunteers. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a hype up, seeing how many people are so supportive for you throughout the day. The volunteers at Kona are definitely next level and extremely special people. Definitely makes the race that much more fun. And then we just went to our bikes quickly, got them all set up. Nobody had any issues, or at least I didn't have any issues. And then they just kind of corral you into these different, almost like pen areas based on your age group to get you ready for the swim start. So it was really nice. Where we were was right on the edge of the wall, so we were able to see everybody before we left and kind of get some well wishes. And then they just kind of every so often they just let the next corral go into the water, and that's where things started to kind of feel real. With this water, it's about 100 meter swim, 200 meter swim.
It's just over 200.
Okay, so just over 200 meter swim, where they get you to kind of line up for the swim, and they have you out there like 10 minutes before we actually go off. So then we're just kind of treading water for probably, I would say, 5 minutes or so. And it was a little bit wild because you only have one certain area to kind of line up with the buoys. But with the way that the tides were going, even we were like spaced out, all of a sudden everybody would be like accordioned in or like squished to the side. So then we're like all on top of each other, and like everybody's apologizing, and it's just like a bit of a weird start to the swim. But then the gun goes off, and I guess the cannon. And the swim was just kind of what was expected. Like there was maybe more people than I was expecting at the beginning, kind of trying to find some feet to get onto. And my goal was to just try to find some feet that were around the same pace and just go there and not to exert too much energy. I always say that the swim is kind of just the aerobic warm-up to get you ready for the next two. It definitely felt a little bit rougher conditions than the year prior that I had been there, but I can't complain about what we did. And it was really nice. About 100 meters from the end, we were swimming, and I can only breathe to the one side. I looked over, and Jess was right beside me, and she was just waving underwater. And I was like, of course we would. So it was like we didn't see each other for the entire swim. Time. And then we finished right at the exact same amount of time. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't have asked for anything more there. So that was really fun. To be able to get out of the water with Jess, and then you just kind of hose yourself down as expected, and then ran through transition quickly. The volunteers in the transition tent were amazing. Got to my bike, and then that's where things started to go a little bit downhill for me. The swim or the transition's a little bit interesting. You come out and then you do a quick left turn. It's up a little hill, and that's where I had a very concentrated bottle, a 1 liter bottle on the back of my bike. And I guess it was like not even 500 meters into the bike, it came out of my bottle cage and lodged in between the back wheel and the frame of my bike, which I didn't realize until I tried to continue to pedal, and my pedals just wouldn't move, and my bike was making a very interesting noise, and I was like, what the heck is going on? Then somebody started screaming at me from behind, telling me what was happening. And that's when I saw that my bottle was back there, and it had just completely cracked, and I kind of went into a frantic little bit of troubleshooting mode because it was 3 hours of my nutrition. So it had 180 grams of carbs in it, and it was just spraying absolutely everywhere. So in my head, I kind of had two decisions: either let it all drain out or try to chug as much as you can to keep that nutrition in my system. So I went with the second option, which was not the right option for my body that day. So I just tried to chug as much as possible, and then that kind of just set my stomach off for the whole day. But the bike was good. Like, it was beautiful conditions for Kona. Like, we didn't have really bad crosswinds. It wasn't too hot whatsoever. So there's nothing that I can complain there. They also had a heck of a lot more aid stations this year compared to the year prior. It's just, that kind of set my stomach off, and then I puked about 5 times on the bike and I couldn't take anything in. So we were aiming for about 85 grams of carbs per hour. And when I look back on what I was able to actually get in, I averaged 40 grams of carbs per hour, so way less than what I was supposed to need to. But at the same time, I'm just proud of the fact that I did stick with it, and I was just trying to take water to help clear everything out. And I still had a better bike split than I did the year before. I don't think it was a day that showed my effort or where I would be normally, but at the same time I finished it. And then getting on to the run, once again, it was just kind of do what my body was able to do. I wasn't able to keep stuff down. My GI system was just kind of really put off, and I was still able to have a pretty solid run. So once again, heat didn't seem too bad, and I can't complain. I guess I learned a lot of lessons throughout that race, and I still finished 20 minutes quicker than I did the year before. But it leaves me very hungry and a lot of like fuel inside to want to go back and be able to get the day that I think I actually could do there and get a really good day on the course. But it was also great having 6 of our teammates on the course with us, because even though I wasn't having the great day, being able to see them having such a good day was just like so inspiring, or very nice. Yeah. I think it's just I'm definitely very happy with what I was able to do. It's just also crazy looking back on like the nutrition and stuff that, like, I think I puked 5 times on the bike. It was 3 times on the run, and averaging 40 grams of carbs for the bike when it's supposed to be 85, and on the run, I think I had like a third of what I was supposed to be able to take in. So I cannot complain. I'm very impressed with what my body was able to do, and I know now not to chug my nutrition. And it's a really cool sport. It just makes you very hungry for the next race.
You could say one of your favorite things going into it is that it's a day of problem solving.
Yeah. A lot of people think that you need to be so physically fit, but I do think it's a lot more about the mental strength, and nothing is going to be able to go perfect. So you're just constantly kind of problem solving throughout the whole day, which I absolutely love. So yeah.
So, I mean, the day delivered one of your favorite things.
Seriously, it hurt me, and the triathlon gods gave it to me. Yeah.
They're like, okay, you want to be tested? Here you go.
It'll just make every other race, hopefully knock on wood, that much easier. So now Jess is gonna have a completely opposite story. Yeah.
But like I said, I was going into that with the mindset that I might need to stop the run at some point. So through the whole day, I was sort of racing a little bit with like waiting for the other shoe to drop, which isn't necessarily how I always like to race races. But in one of the things that I really leaned on and learned in this race more than any is that just listening to my body. This was the first Ironman ever that Coach Mark didn't put the times that he wanted us to do. It was just like, be in your body and feel what you can do. So it was actually the coolest experience for me, because normally I'm semi-aware of like how fast I'm going and what I'm doing, and like for Kona I had no idea, none whatsoever. The last time that I knew a true time was the swim. So like Allison said, we like described it perfectly, the tight swim. Leading up to the race, I was nervous. I had like a healthy amount of nervous respect for the course. Like I know how hard it is, and like I said, I was racing, like just waiting for it to get a lot harder all day long. So for the swim, it was that accordion bit, and I honestly think that that's how racing was always before. I was complaining to like a pro about it, and they're like, you are soft. That is how all pros would need to race traditionally, so get over it. So I was like, okay, we just need to get used to being crunched. But the swim was great. Some of my highlights were like all the incredible tropical fish you see. Like, so you're not allowed to wear a wetsuit, but it's super buoyant with the salt water. So that was great. And I found that the women were actually very respectful swimming. Like it was fine. I didn't see Allison from the gun, so I kept looking to try and see her in the water. We did see in the turnaround is you see scuba divers all the way down, so that was a cool moment of like, whoa, that's like just those moments of like remembering where you are and what course you're racing. But I think that was like my highlight of the swim is we were trying to finish, and this was a moment where I'm like, okay, let's just get this swim over with. And then turning and seeing you, I was like, oh my god. So like the beginning of our race photos, there's like us like coming out of the water, hosing off together. And that was exciting because we've always talked about like, oh, if we could get out and swim together, we'll essentially like bike and run together. So that was in my head. So I was sad that you had the gut experience, because like you said, I don't think that you got the bike that we know you're gonna do very soon. But once I got to the bike, just jumped on it, started riding, worked really hard on starting to get fueling, and like just like your mouth tastes like salt after that swim, so just like cleansing the mouth and like settling into the rhythm. Some of the feedback I got was like, don't bike too hard through the town because like that's where things happen. So eased up a little bit, but then once you were on the Queen K highway, just sort of like settled into it. And I actually found that like, because I didn't have like, Mark gives us a wide range of power, I was pushing like right where I was supposed to, so settled in. I think my favorite part of the bike was the climb to Hawai'i. It was just like, I love hills, and it was just cool because that was the first time that I started seeing people from the club. So that was cool, and got sort of a jolt every time that I saw. And then we had a whole squad that was out there cheering and just like giving high fives. It was awesome. Towards the end of the bike, I started just naturally fatiguing, and one thing that's when it really struck me, even though we got very fortunate where it wasn't like a super hot day, it was hot. So I would find that every time I started feeling like I was wilting a little, or like my power was fading, or it wasn't that I wasn't hitting my power, it was just that it was working hard to hit it. And then all of a sudden, like inevitably within 5K, all of a sudden there's an aid station, and I'd grab a bottle of water and just spray myself from head to toe, and it was wild. The immediate impact of feeling like, okay, I feel good. And you gave me a really good tip before the race of like hitting that like arteries, like by your groin. Yeah. And that was actually huge in terms of cooling.
Yeah, like back of neck, and then also squirting it just kind of on your, like the femoral arteries and stuff really helps like bring your temperatures down. Yeah. Right away.
Yeah. I did have a moment too where I had 2 90-gram gels. And I actually thought that I'd left one in a bag. So I did have like a panic moment, and that moment of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start, because they have Morton gels. And I was like, I'll just like, it's annoying, but I'll grab the equivalent. But then all of a sudden I reached down and I'd forgotten that I had a little pocket. I was like, oh my God, there you are. Hi. So I was fortunate to be able to take all my nutrition on the bike. And actually I found that I was hungrier than I expected. Normally in heat, it sort of suppresses the hunger, but I was hungry to the point where I got off the bike and like, I need a gel before I start this run. When I dismounted the bike though, the outside of my foot was tight in my bike shoe, and I didn't think anything of it. Sometimes like it's a long time to be biking. Did my flying dismount and almost like crumpled to the ground. My whole foot was totally cramped up, to the point where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to run this marathon. So went into the change tent, and like Allison said, the volunteers are amazing. So I'm like still being like, how the heck am I going to run? I'm putting on one shoe, and I mentioned to a volunteer that I had this foot cramp. All of a sudden there's like this volunteer medic, like giving me a foot massage in transition. But so when I got out of the transition area, I was feeling like a little boost for how awesome they were. But it was a lot of pain, like running on like a seized up foot. And it probably took about 10K for that to fully alleviate. But I took a lot of...
Do you think it's salt?
I just started pounding the salt and just... I took extra salt tabs than what I expected. And it was crazy. I started taking one every 20 minutes out there, and I'm a fairly low salt sweater, but I think it made a big difference. And yeah, so right from the beginning, I ran slower. Like I kept thinking, I'm like, if you can run slower, do, because I was just nervous about the heat, and everyone talks about like the energy labs being super hot. And I think because I was cautious at the beginning, I ended up having like the best feeling run that I've ever had in an Ironman. Just because like it was, you're giving into the upper 30s of the kilometers, and I was like, I normally don't get to have fresh legs like this. So just soaked that in and enjoyed it, and it was a really special race course. It was awesome seeing everyone out there, because on the run, even more than the bike, you can see all your teammates out there, and it was a really special day, and historic because it was only women out there. So just the sort of the girl power out there. You hear jokes online of it being like Barbie land, but everyone was like cheering each other on, and there was so much positive energy. And they talk about like even the highway is the Queen Highway. All the volcanoes are women. So yeah, it was just like a super epic, awesome girl power day. And yeah, it was like such a special feeling to run through that finish line and know that everyone was waiting, and that was like a celebration of all the hard work that we did. So yeah, it was an awesome race. And like I always thought, like, is Kona actually like worth the hype? Like you hear people talking about like Kona's awesome, and I know that Allison has been back, but I was like, maybe it's a one and done for me. But I'm like instantly, I'm like, no, I will go back. That is such a special place. It's ruggedly beautiful. The race itself is just stunning. Yeah, nothing but good things to say. And then Kenny's. We like dragged ourselves to the parking lot, and we were just needing dinner, and we were starving. It was even more for the people who were like supporting us all day. Like they don't have food. So we ended up all at a Denny's for dinner.
Pancakes for dinner.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tell them what you ate for dinner.
I had the pancakes. I had a side serving of pancakes and an apple juice. What did you have?
I had a chocolate milk and a steak omelet and hash browns.
Yeah.